Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought a night out with friends could change everything. I mean, parties were always just a way to unwind, laugh a little, meet some familiar faces, and maybe flirt with someone I didn't know very well. But never in my wildest thoughts did I imagine that I'd walk into a room and have my entire life upend in a single moment. My name is Oliver, I'm 37, and for the past 11 years, I'd been married to Lila. She was the type of person who lit up a room without even trying, warm smile, infectious laugh, and eyes that made you feel like you were the only one that mattered. I loved her for that spark, that uncontainable energy that made her both magnetic and, sometimes, frustratingly unpredictable. That night, our friends were celebrating Maya's birthday at a house on the outskirts of town. I wasn't particularly excited. I'd had a long week, full of client calls, late nights, and unfinished projects, but Lila insisted. "It'll be fun," she said, brushing off my protests. "You need to loosen up, Liv. Stop treating life like a spreadsheet." I laughed at the nickname she gave me, Liv. Only she did that. Somehow it always made me feel like a kid again, invincible and mischievous, back when the two of us first started dating. The drive there was uneventful. A few minutes of quiet conversation punctuated by her humming along to some pop song that I pretended not to know but secretly loved. As we pulled up, the music from inside the house spilled into the driveway. Lila reached over and squeezed my hand. "Come on, just let go for a bit," she said, flashing that half-smile that had gotten me into so much trouble over the years. I smiled back, but there was a nagging feeling somewhere in my chest I couldn't place. Something in me whispered that tonight wouldn't go as I thought, but I brushed it off. After all, I trusted her. 11 years of trust, laughter, arguments, and reconciliation. Surely that was enough. Inside, the room buzzed with people laughing, dancing, and drinking. Friends I hadn't seen in months hugged us warmly, and for a moment, I felt some of the tension from the week dissolve. Lila disappeared into the crowd, chatting and laughing, her arm brushing against mine occasionally, keeping me tethered in a way only she could. I watched her from across the room, noticing the way her laughter sounded just a little different, slightly higher pitched than usual. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but my gut started to tighten. I decided to grab a drink from the kitchen, trying to shake the feeling off. The dim lighting made the house feel cozy yet intimate, and somewhere behind me, the faint sound of someone calling my name broke through the hum of conversation. I turned, expecting to see a friend, but instead, I caught sight of Derek, one of Lila's colleagues. He was tall, with that annoyingly confident grin, the type of guy who always seemed like he owned every room he walked into. My stomach sank slightly, not because of Derek himself, but because of how close Lila was standing next to him. Too close. Hands brushing, smiles lingering longer than polite conversation should allow. I stepped closer, pretending to adjust my drink, my mind racing. Maybe I was overthinking, I told myself. They were probably just talking, laughing about work, nothing more. But then the laughter shifted. Something in the way she leaned into him, her hand brushing his arm, that familiar warmth she reserved for me. It was there, directed at someone else. And that's when I saw it. That single, fleeting glimpse that would sear into my memory forever. She wasn't wearing her dress. Not fully. Not the one I'd seen her choose that morning. Something entirely different, something deliberate, something meant for him and not me. I froze. My glass slipped slightly in my hand, the faint clink echoing like a warning bell. For a moment, I just stared, trying to make sense of it. How? Why? 11 years. 11 years of loyalty, shared memories, late-night conversations, arguments that ended in laughter. And here she was, inches away from him, utterly unaware, or perhaps blissfully uncaring, that I was watching. My chest tightened, my throat dry, my vision narrowing to the scene unfolding before me. Every laugh, every touch, every glance seemed magnified, a cruel reminder of how fast things could unravel when you least expect it. I wanted to speak, to confront, to demand an explanation, but no words came. My mind raced back to every small sign I had ignored. The subtle text messages she brushed off, the late nights at work she insisted were necessary, the sudden enthusiasm for social events I barely knew about. I had dismissed them, reassured myself it was nothing, that love didn't have to be constant fireworks. But this was a revelation too large to ignore. It wasn't just neglect, not just distance. It was betrayal. And it was happening in real time, right in front of me. I took a step back, trying to steady myself, to control the anger and heartbreak that threatened to overtake me. My body felt heavy, like I was wading through water that got colder with each passing second. My friend's laughter faded into a background murmur, the music blending into an almost surreal haze. Everything felt slowed down, as though the universe had decided to give me this moment in excruciating detail, forcing me to see the truth I hadn't wanted to acknowledge. I backed away slowly, pretending to check my phone, but every fiber of my being was locked onto the scene. Lila didn't notice me. She didn't have to. Her laughter, that same familiar laughter that used to feel like home, now felt like a knife twisting. Derek leaned closer, his hand brushing hers deliberately, and for a moment, I saw the way her eyes lit up. Not with recognition, not with the warmth she reserved for me, but with excitement, flirtation, curiosity. And that's when reality hit me like a punch to the gut. The woman I had trusted, the woman I had built a life with, was no longer mine. Not in spirit, not in heart. I didn't know what to do. My instincts told me to storm in, to confront, to demand answers. But something calmer, colder, steadier took over. I remembered my father's words from years ago, when I had come home heartbroken over a failed friendship. Never let anger dictate your actions. Observe, understand, and respond with clarity. Clarity, that's what I needed. Not drama, not shouting, not tears that wouldn't change anything. Just clarity. I wandered through the crowd, careful to stay in shadows, watching, processing, measuring the impact of every movement, every laugh. My mind replayed our past. Our road trips to the coast, lazy Sundays with pancakes, the way she used to rest her head on my shoulder without thinking twice. All of it felt like a lifetime ago. How quickly the memory of love could twist into something unrecognizable, leaving behind only the echoes of what once was. Then it happened. Derek leaned in, whispering something that made her laugh in that way that had once been mine. And without warning, she leaned closer, resting her hand on his arm just as I had imagined it 1,000 times. Only this time I wasn't imagining. I felt a cold weight in my chest, a heavy emptiness that spread from my heart to my stomach. And in that moment, a strange clarity took over. I had a choice. I could explode, ruin the night, confront them and risk saying something I'd regret forever. Or I could step away, reclaim the only thing left entirely mine, myself. I walked out of the room, the laughter and music fading behind me, muffled but ever present, like the remnants of a dream I couldn't fully wake from. Outside, the cool night air hit me like a splash of reality. I breathed deeply, feeling my chest rise and fall with slow, deliberate control. My hands were trembling slightly, not from fear, not from shame, but from the release of years of blind trust, of quiet compromise, of unspoken hopes that had gone unnoticed. I thought about our marriage. 11 years. Shared bills, shared dreams, shared laughter, shared heartbreak. And now a single night, a single careless choice had undone it all. Part of me ached for what we had, what I thought we had. But another part, one I hadn't acknowledged in years, was strangely grateful. Grateful for clarity, for the cruel honesty of the moment, for the chance to finally see things as they truly were. Love, it seemed, wasn't enough. Respect, attention, choice, that had been the foundation. And when those pillars crumbled, no amount of nostalgia could keep the structure standing. I wandered through the quiet streets, past the parked cars and dim streetlights, replaying the scene in my head, over and over, like a film I couldn't pause. And then, almost without realizing it, the anger began to fade, replaced by a bitter, jagged understanding. Lila had chosen her path. Derek had stepped into a role I didn't want to occupy anymore. And I had a choice. I could let this moment define me, crush me under its weight, or I could let it mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. By the time I returned home, the house was quiet, eerily so. The familiar scent of our shared life lingered, furniture and photos and little mementos scattered around, reminders of a bond that had been both strong and fragile. I walked slowly through the rooms, letting my gaze linger on the frames, on the laughter frozen in photographs, on the life we had built together. And yet, for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt a strange sense of liberation. The weight of compromise, of silent disappointment, of unnoticed effort, was lifting, leaving room for something I hadn't allowed myself in a long time: clarity. The next day, I called a few close friends, seeking neither sympathy nor advice, just grounding. Reminders that life was continuing beyond that moment, beyond her choices. Maya answered on the third ring, her voice bright and comforting. "Hey, Oliver, how's last night?" she asked casually. And for the first time, I laughed. Not a forced, polite laugh, but a quiet, steady laugh that came from deep inside. "Better than expected," I said, and I meant it. Better than expected, because for the first time, I saw the truth, unfiltered, unmasked, and it was liberating in a way nothing else could have been. It didn't erase the pain. It didn't magically rebuild the trust or the bond. But it reminded me of one immutable fact. No one could strip me of my dignity, my clarity, or my choice. I had allowed myself to love fully, deeply, and honestly, and I would not allow her betrayal to redefine me. That night had ended something, yes, but it had also begun something else. The chance to step into life with open eyes, to reclaim the narrative of my own existence. And maybe, just maybe, that was the most powerful love I could ever feel. Love for myself.